welcome to Chartstoppers, the show where we take a look and a listen to one-hit wonders.
Any artist who hit the pop chart in the top 40 from 1960 to 1999 is fair game for us to put under the microscope.
We're asking the question, were they one-hit wonders? And the subject this week, the Smiths.
Plus, we have a few additional twists to that question.
Which we always do here, Mike. That's what I love about your stories. We always find the twists and the turns in musical history that maybe people don't remember. And maybe Mike's going to remind us of them. You definitely need to remind me. I have short-term memory problems.
Hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It helps us so much with the YouTube algorithm and allows us to make more shows.
Did the Smiths produce a lot of hits, or were they a one-hit wonder, or were they a no-hit wonder? Only Mike can tell me, because, again, I don't remember.
Yeah, let's get into it. The Smiths were formed in 1982 in Manchester, England by guitarist Johnny Marr and singer Morrissey. The pair forged a songwriting team for which Marr would compose the music and Morrissey would write the lyrics. The band started recording singles the following year, and their second single, This Charming Man, became a hit in the UK. The quartet then had a string of hits in Great Britain, but very limited commercial response in the US. Here in the States, college radio stations and some hip music critics fell in love with the Smiths. In college radio's trade magazine CMJ, there was immediate buzz around the band. "Britain's gone wild for the Smiths," said one write-up in March of 1984. "But will it play in Peoria? Maybe not just yet, but you can bet on them a few months down the line. And smart radio will go with the Smiths now." The student music director for the University of Massachusetts Amherst's campus station declared that same month, the Smiths are going to hit big over here sooner or later. Also in March of '84, the music directors for University of California San Diego's college station said, "Our current favorite album is the Smiths." In an April 1984 review in the Stamford Advocate newspaper in Connecticut, the critic opined that the Smiths' debut album was one of the most intensely romantic albums to be released in some time and has some of the most starkly beautiful and moving music of 1984. But mainstream radio ignored the band. In the fall of 1984, the Smiths' song How Soon Is Now was released on a single in the UK, but only as a B-side to William It Was Really Nothing. The band's label re-released it as an A-side, and it made it to number 24 on the UK chart in early 1985. The Smiths had scored several top 40 hits in their home nation by this point. Meanwhile, on these shores, MTV began playing a video for the song in the US by December of 1984, a video that Sire Records made without any input from the band. Morrissey later told Cream magazine that he abhorred the video. "It had absolutely nothing to do with the Smiths," he said. "Sire made that video, and we saw the video, and we said to Sire, you can't possibly release this degrading video. And they said, well, maybe you shouldn't really be on our label." He declared the situation quite disastrous. When the band's second album, Meat is Murder, was released in 1985, the U.S. edition had the single How Soon Is Now added to its track listing. College radio stations played the hell out of the song, as did some of the early alternative rock radio stations. In their year-end countdown of 1984's best music, Los Angeles radio station K-Rock had How Soon Is Now at number 22. San Diego's 91X had the song at number 3 in their list for 1985. But while the song made it to the Billboard Dance Chart, it didn't even get a whiff of making it to the main singles chart, and neither did any other songs by the Smiths. The band simply never made it to the charts at all, let alone have a top 40 hit in the U.S. Therefore, the Smiths are not one-hit wonders. They remain no-hit wonders. But even after the band's breakup in 1987, How Soon Is Now held an enduring place in the minds of many music fans as well as critics. Music writers continued to reference the song in articles about other musicians' music, as well as in reviews of post-breakup work by Morrissey and Marr. It was the Smiths' signature song, a 7-minute epic, with Morrissey's most plaintive lyrics and Marr's guitar ringing out to echo that cry for young love. And whenever modern rock radio stations had their listeners vote on the best songs of the past, How Soon Is Now would often show up near the top. And music writers were singing the praises of How Soon Is Now long after the band's demise. The legendary How Soon Is Now, considered by many to be the greatest song of the modern rock era. Swooning to songs like How Soon Is Now has become as much of a part of adolescence as clutching Catcher in the Rye.
Oh my God. What a statement. But I can't really argue with it, because at that time, there were a lot of people who loved, sort of independent music, modern rock, like music that wasn't really making it to the charts. And How Soon Is Now is kind of like the patron saint of all of those songs.
It's really true in that Morrissey, by being such a loud and proud outsider, really
Yes.
tapped into something that was universal, especially among teenagers and
Yeah.
young adults, that you feel like you just don't fit in. It's the classic Morrissey line from How Soon Is Now about going to a party and you stand on your own and you leave on your own and you go home and you cry and you want to die. Everybody can identify with that, or at least many people can truly identify with that at that time of life. And so it becomes such a touchstone once you hear that. And even it's been my experience over the years that even young people who discover the Smiths long after they'd long broken up, they whatever their entry point is to the Smiths, there's lots of songs they might hear in one way or another. It all leads to How Soon Is Now, and that becomes the big song that people love from that band.
Yeah, I mean, I, like a lot of people who love 80s music, have a handful of Smith songs that I really like, but honestly, they're all second and lower to How Soon Is Now. I really do think that that's, dare I say it, I think that How Soon Is Now is the Smiths' Bohemian Rhapsody.
Slash Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, yes, another great example too.
It remains one of the most galvanizing moments in rock history, that of a guitarist turning his instrument into an orchestra of sound. Meanwhile, Johnny Marr and Morrissey had gone their separate ways. Morrissey launched a solo career and had many more hits in the UK. In the US, his work had a more muted response. He charted on Billboard's Modern Rock chart, which launched after the Smiths broke up. And in March 1994, his single, The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get, gathered a full head of steam and charged onto the pop chart. It made a valiant effort, but fizzled out after peaking at number 46. So close to a top 40 hit, but not quite making it to true hit status. Meanwhile, Johnny Marr was trying out new collaborations with other established artists. He joined the band The and played on their 1989 album Mind Bomb. Several The songs made it onto the Modern Rock chart, but no true hits in the U.S. Then, Marr teamed up with Bernard Sumner of New Order to form the group Electronic. For their first single, the duo added more musical star power in the form of Pet Shop Boys vocalist Neil Tennant. Getting Away With It was released in the UK in December 1989 and featured an orchestra conducted by Ann Dudley of The Art of Noise. The song came out as a single in the US in March 1990. Let's go to the chart gridiron to see how Getting Away With It did. The song hit the singles chart on March 30th, 1990, and then the song peaked at number 38, barely squeaking its way into the top 40, but that made it an actual hit song. Electronic went on to release 3 albums of material. Just about all of their singles made it to the top 40 in the UK, but the band was never able to duplicate their feat of Getting Away With It in the US, and that made Johnny Marr and Electronic one-hit wonders.
That's really cool. I'm really glad. I mean, because that's a super group right there.
Yeah, I mean, the group itself was Bernard Sumner and Johnny Marr, but bringing in Neil Tennant for their debut single was certainly going to electrify the UK music press at the very least.
Right.
And it certainly does sound like a Pet Shop Boys song because of Neil Tennant singing on it. And in 1990, that was definitely a good thing to have. It sounded great. It did not sound like the Smiths in any way, shape, or form. Marr was definitely uh, leaning more into electronic work rather than guitar playing at that point. But that was the zeitgeist in that time period in 1990. So that's what helped it become a hit.
So the Smiths were not one-hit wonders. They were no-hit wonders, but there was a one-hit wonder that involved Johnny Marr, and that, of course, being electronic. So there you go. We are done with the Smiths and the whole one-hit wonder deal.
Hold on there, John. Don't sign off just yet here, because there is one extra twist that we can throw onto this story.
If there's one thing we love here at Chartstoppers, it's one extra twist.
Soho was a musical outfit formed in London featuring twin sisters, Jacqueline and Pauline Cuff on vocals, along with musician and producer Timothy Brinkhurst. Brinkhurst was in a band called Groovalax under the name Tim London, and the sisters joined the group. That band broke up, so the Cuffs and Brinkhurst started a new band called Timothy London and the Soho Sisters. They soon shortened the name to simply Soho. For their sophomore album, the trio recorded a song which began with a sample of Johnny Marr's distinctive guitar from the Smiths' How Soon Is Now, and that song was called Hippie Chick. The lyrics sing of a failing relationship using bleak imagery. The chorus has the Cuff sisters sing out the lines, "Got no flowers for your gun, no hippie chick. Won't make love to change your mind, no hippie chick," over that exquisite How Soon Is Now guitar. When Hippie Chick was new, every time it was played on the radio or in a club, many listeners first assumed it was the start of the Smiths song. Then the drum machine beat kicks in, providing a moment of temporal dislocation and disorientation. The effect is compounded due to the lyrical reference to a flower power era that, by 1990, had returned in part through rave culture. As this song was making a name for itself in England, Hippie Chick started to get some radio and club spins from cooler outlets in the U.S., playing the song as an import. In late summer of 1990, it was officially released in America and got a big promotional push. On September 8, 1990, Hippie Chick entered the singles chart. On October 20th, the song pierced the veil of Top 40 radio, and finally it peaked at number 14 on November 24th. Hippie Chick was a true hit, but it also retained its cool factor. Sometime when a song begins its radio airplay journey on alternative rock radio and then crosses over to pop radio, the alternative stations might deem the song uncool and stop playing it. That was especially the case in 1990. But some alternative radio stations included the song in their year-end countdowns for 1990. And years later, when alt-rock radio stations did retrospective best-of-all-time countdowns, Hippie Chick still popped up on some of the lists. Soho never had another song make the U.S. chart, let alone a hit, so Soho is a one-hit wonder with Hippie Chick.
They peaked at 14? I had no idea. I wasn't listening to a lot of radio at this point, I guess, but I had no idea this was such a big hit.
It was a big deal, and again, it was just really tapped into the zeitgeist of the time, just like electronic did. It was very beat driven. It had a cool video. It had a great sing-along chorus, and it just had that novelty factor of sampling the Smiths' How Soon Is Now. Those who knew the song thought it was pretty cool, although there were some people initially who were very angry because once that beat kicked in, they were like, "Oh, it's not the Smiths," if they would hear it, in a club or on the radio. But most people didn't know How Soon Is Now because that wasn't a hit in the US. There were a lot of people who heard Hippie Chick from Soho and didn't know where that source sample was from. Right. Interestingly, Jackie Cuff of Soho later told a newspaper in the UK after they came to the US and were treated like big superstars. Meanwhile, back in London, they were living over a dry cleaner's in a shabby apartment, smelling the dry cleaning fumes all day. Because when it was initially released in the UK, it was kind of a bomb, and then it became a hit in the US. So they re-released it in the UK, and then it became a top 10 hit over there. So it was actually broke in the US first. But when they came back to the UK, they told a newspaper in the States, they just treat that riff as just a noise. It could have been a fart being sampled for all they care.
That is so unfair. That's so unfair. That's a great hook. Is it not? Am I just like enchanted by an 80s song? I think
No, it's a great sample to use for sure for those who know it, but for those
Mm,
who didn't know it, I mean, that I think they were just speaking to the fact that when the song was released in the UK, it had a cultural context that was devoid
yes,
in the US. As a
yes.
matter of fact, when it was first released and it stiffed, people thought it was kind of a joke. Not the song was a joke, meaning it was stupid. It's just they thought they sampled it because of the Smiths song Panic about burn the discos down, hang the blessed DJ, and
Yeah.
then to create a dance track sampling the Smiths was kind of thought of as a reference, sort of an in joke to use. Whereas in the US, there was no, it just didn't have any kind of external resonance beyond just what people heard in the song itself.
That makes a lot of sense. And one also has to remember that dance floors became a whole different place in the 90s with house culture. All I knew was I would go out with friends, we'd be in a club, someone would put this song on, we would start dancing, then I'd be like, "Oh, it's no, it's not the Smiths version." But it's a banger on the dance floor. It's a great dance song. So, yeah, there's another reason to like it.
So there you
Um,
go. The Smiths never had a hit, but one of the members of the Smiths was a one-hit wonder, and one of their songs actually helped give birth to another one-hit wonder.
well, that'll do it for this episode of Chartstoppers. We love to talk about one-hit wonders and all kinds of musical stuff.
It is something that we find fascinating, the stories behind all of these wonderful artists that are one-hit wonders. We love to listen to them, and it sounds at times like we are mocking them, but come on, they had a hit. We didn't.
So, Mike, thanks once again for a great story.
Thanks for listening and watching.
Join us again next time, won't you? And hey, if you're on the channel, go ahead and take a look at our other videos. Mike has so many great stories, and we love bringing them to you here. Until next time, we'll see you later. I'm John.
I'm Mike. Take care.
Right place by Dr. John. Craftworks Autobahn. Hanging on heart attack by device. Jan Hammers Miami Vice. Dane Child Cherry Wild. David Soul De La Soul. Shelley Wright. The Heights. Rick D's Delight. Sisters Twisted and Shakespeare. Shocking Blue and Blue Cheer. Garland Green and Sunscreen. Paul Hardcastle 19. T-Rex. Climax. Frankie Say. Relax. Digon Kick. Gilder Nick. Swayze. Patrick.
I occasionally will buy a lottery ticket, not often, but occasionally. And the primary reason I have is to become rich to fund one performance of a song live. I want to hear Get the Message from Electronic performed with not synthesizers, but with strings, with horns, two drummers, four acoustic guitarists, a small choir of backing vocalists of women, maybe a guest singer if we can't get Bernard Sumner to sing it. That's what I want to do as a rich person, is to just hear this song performed live. Bit of a side note, I understand.
So, everybody, it is our responsibility to make Mike a billionaire so that we can hear this. Was
I
that?
will invite you all. I will even take it on tour so that I can visit you all so you can hear it live, because it will be stunning. I guarantee you.